Okay, it says I'm live, so I guess we'll see if I'm live. Guess we'll also see if anybody shows up. Oh, wait, is there people here already? Can I see the people? Yes, this is Mickey not being able to figure out how to work his way around a interface. So, hey, everybody. So it says I have a couple of people in here, so that's always good. Oh, there we go, participants. Nope, had some people drop already. That's fine too. All right, so welcome to Lunch and Learn with me. So that's kind of the point of today was, hey, if you're grabbing some lunch and want to hang out and talk GitHub, I would love to hang out and talk GitHub with you. DevOps, anything else you'd like to talk about? Let's see. I'll pop out the chat window so I can see the chat window in case people actually want to chat. So if you are watching and if you've got questions, if you want to talk about anything around GitHub or DevOps or anything else for that matter, I'm more than happy to drive the conversation whatever direction we want to go. Otherwise, my plans today were to eat a little lunch and talk a little bit about Dependabot. So, because I've found that I've had 2 or 3 people ask me about making some videos around Dependabot. So I thought I'd start off talking about Dependabot and see where that goes, because Dependabot's pretty interesting. First off, just general catch up. This is my second time doing live. I'm trying a different video camera this time. It's really weird because I keep looking up here, but the video camera's right there. Going to see if this helps or hinders as far as some of the stuttering that we had, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. You can also see I've got the ceiling fan on max because it has decided to get hot here in Mississippi. So it is therefore time for air conditioning and fans because it is, well, hot. Overall, it's Tuesday. Hope your week has been going well so far. Mine's been going pretty well. I've been excited about doing this. Again, may do some more this week or the weekend at different times, but this is where we are. So, no questions from anybody that I can see. So we're going to talk about Dependabot. And if you have any questions, if you think of something you'd like to talk about, feel free to jump in the chat. I'd love for you to, if you got questions, ask me questions. If you've got specific topics you want to talk about, you're welcome to point those out as well. But if you don't, then I'm just going to talk about Dependabot till somebody distracts me otherwise. Okay. Well, I got the chat up, so hopefully I'll see it if questions come up. But for now, let's go see if I can share out a screen. So let's go share an entire screen, and we're going to go with this screen right here. All right, this is where my video of me is going to be down in the corner, and it may start to stutter. Find out. Yes, so have not solved that problem yet. But the good news is, who cares about me, because everything else is going to work okay as far as the demo goes. Got some ideas from a couple of people on how to fix this stuttering problem, so I will attempt to get that done next time. But for now, let's move on and let's talk about Dependabot. So what is GitHub Dependabot, right? Well, the first thing you should know about GitHub Dependabot is that for the most part, for 99% of it, it's fully available to you. It's freely available to you. And there's one little piece of it, which we'll talk about, which does require an advanced security license, but all the other aspects of it are free. And what Dependabot does is it helps you determine what packages you may be using that might have vulnerabilities open against them. Because let's face it, all of the code that we write nowadays, we're using code built by other people to help us build our code, right? We're using packages, whether it's NPM packages or NuGet packages or Maven packages, whatever kind of packages you're using. We're using packages to try and to help us build our code. And you can look at statistics. There's some statistics out there that claim up to 80% of the code that you write in an application is actually used by other packages. So you need to make sure that the packages that you're using are not vulnerable packages, don't have security issues again opened up against them. And that's where Dependabot comes in. Now, what Dependabot's going to do for you is it doesn't scan the package. All right. Instead, what it does is it goes to the GitHub advisory registry that we have, where people have said, oh, this version of a package has this security vulnerability against it. And it checks to see if you're using a vulnerable version. And if you are using a vulnerable version, then it will alert you to that. It can automatically create pull requests to help you update the packages. It can also let you know if there's new versions of the packages out there. But in general, it helps you understand your security posture as far as your supply chain goes, as far as the packages that you're using. Now, turning on Dependabot is really pretty easy. So I've got my repository here that is just a demo repository that I have. And so if I go into the settings of the repository, and we scroll down just a little bit, there's an advanced security setting. Dependabot settings are underneath the advanced security setting, but don't let that scare you because, again, most of Dependabot is free. So if I go into advanced security setting, then you can see I've got a section here called Dependency Graph and Dependabot. So the first thing you have to do before you can use Dependabot is you have to enable your dependency graph. And your dependency graph basically just determines a list of all the dependencies that you have in your repository. It looks at your lock files to determine what those dependencies are. And if it doesn't catch all your dependencies, there's also an API that you can use to push your dependencies into the dependency graph as well. But so the first step in using Dependabot is going to be enabling that dependency graph. Now, once you enable the dependency graph, you can see here that it's enabled. It'll could take a couple of minutes for it to actually update the actual dependency graph itself. But if we go to Insights, then there's a section in Insights called Dependency Graph. And if we look in there, we can see my application has 234 different dependencies that it's relying on. And you can see the different versions of the dependencies that I am relying on. Okay, this is good. This is a good start. So we know that my code is using all of these dependencies. But let's face it, when is the last time I went to my list of dependencies and I checked to see if any of them had vulnerabilities open against them, if any of them had security flaws open against them? The answer is I haven't in a very long time. So, given that, I want to use Dependabot to see if I have any security vulnerabilities I need to deal with. So if we go back into settings, we've enabled the dependency graph. Then you can see we have multiple options here for enabling things under Dependabot. We can enable Dependabot alerts. That's going to throw actual alerts that we can view about the dependency issues. We can enable security updates. Security updates is going to automatically create pull requests to try to update the dependency to the latest version that will fix the security flaw. You can also group them together. You can also do version updates with Dependabot. And version updates with Dependabot allows you to say, oh, you're using version 2 of a package. Version 2.1 just came out. And it will create a pull request to let you know that version 2.1 just came out. And then finally, you have the option of dealing with Dependabot. You can have your Dependabot just execute security and version updates using actions runners, or you can have it do it using self-hosted runners. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to enable the alerts. So this is going to immediately do a scan of the dependency graph and come back and tell me any alerts it's found. And you can see up here, it's already found 8. We're going to also, just because we can, we're going to come down here and enable security updates so that it will create those pull requests for us. And we're also going to then also enable version updates. So it will create pull requests when there's new versions out there. And then finally, just because I'm going to use hosted runners for all of this, it by default it enables the version updates and depend. Oh, I must click the wrong one. Yeah. So I enabled Dependabot action runners. There we go. And I enabled security updates. To enable version updates, I actually have to also potentially create what's called a dependabot.yaml file. And that's because I would need to point it to my package systems. We'll come back and look at that one in a second. For right now, let's just look at the alerts that are created, and let's look and see if it creates the pull request for us as well to fix any security vulnerabilities. So if I go to my security tab, and you can see I've got 13 Dependabot alerts that have been found. Now, if I dive in those Dependabot alerts, you're going to notice that the alerts can be broken down by package. They can be broken down by ecosystem. In this case, I've only got NPM. They can be broken down by where the manifest they came from, severity. And you can see they're listed from critical all the way down to, in this case, moderate, but there's even a level below moderate as well. But right now, you can see I've got 2 critical alerts in my code. Now, this did not scan the package. This said, oh, you're using this version of this package, and that version has a vulnerability open against it. So if I open up this alert, what we're going to be able to see from this alert is that the package is MarsDB. All versions are affected by this. And unfortunately for this one, they don't even have a fix that's available for it. So their recommendation is use something else until they find a fix for it. And that gives me the severity, gives me a link to the CW. Oh, click the wrong button. So it gives me a link to the CWE. So here I can click down. You can see it tells me what the problem is. I can click into here and open that in a new tab to be able to actually see all the details around this common weakness enumeration, why this is a problem. You can also see the advisory on this in the GitHub advisory database. So the GitHub advisory database is what we're using to determine if you're using a package that has a vulnerability open against it. And here you can see that gives you details in the advisory database of a little bit what the problem is. So let's go back and look at a different alert, see if that gives us a little more information. So let's go into this one, verification bypassed by JSON Web Token. Now this one, you'll notice that this one affects any versions that are less than 4.2.2. Okay, that's great. And you need to patch to at least version 4.2.2 to resolve this vulnerability. And then you'll notice there's a review security update button. It's actually created a pull request for me to solve this problem. So if I come back out here to pull request, then you can see there's a bump JSON Web Token from 0.4.0 to 9.0.0. And if I open that up, that is a pull request where it has gone into my package.json and it has bumped us up to the version that will resolve this. Now, you'll notice that merging this pull request resolves 4 different Dependabot alerts. So one of the nice things about this is when you do have multiple alerts, they can potentially be resolved just by a single change to one of your manifest files. Now, if we look at this pull request that was created for us automatically, you can see it was created by the Dependabot. It wants to bump us from 0.4.0 to 9.0.0. Gives us information about the change log for that. And it also gives us this compatibility score. And this compatibility score is how confident we feel that if you just click the merge button, this isn't going to cause any problems. And we figure that out based off of other repositories that we've seen click that merge button. And here you can see the compatibility score is only 18%. So that's not, I need to do some testing before I just merge this, which makes sense because we're talking about going from a point 0.4 release to a major version of 9.0 release. So with that, we could merge this if we wanted to. It would automatically close those alerts. Let's go ahead and merge this. It's not going to hurt anything. And what we should see is once we merge this, we should be able to go back into our alerts over on Dependabot, and we should see that 4 of them were closed. If we come back into pull request, you can see we've closed that pull request. And over here on Dependabot, we now only have 9 open alerts, and we have 4 closed alerts. And those 4 closed alerts are because we merged that pull request. So working with Dependabot to make sure the packages that you're using are safe is important. Now, there's a couple of other things you could do with Dependabot, but I have a question or two in the chat, so I want to go look at those. But just so you are aware, a couple of other things you can do with Dependabot is you can also have it, if we go back here under Advanced Security, and we go to Security, and we go to Version Updates, you can also have it do version updates. And what I mean by that is it can look to see if you've got using a version of a package right now, and it will see if there are updates out there. This can also tell you if there's updates to actions that you're using as well. But this requires configuring a dependabot.yaml file. So let's enable this. Oh, let's go create this config file. So to enable that, we've got to create this config file, right? There's a lot of different options you can put in here. We're just going to take the default. But you could also, if you were using, say, an internal artifactory, then you could create a secret that allows you to access that internal artifactory to be able to check to see if there's updates to your versions there as well. All right, so let's commit this change. And it automatically goes in the .github folder. So we've got dependabot.yaml file. So now if we go back to our settings and we go to advanced security, then we can see version updates is enabled. And what we should hopefully see here in a few minutes, and we'll come back and check, what we should see in a few minutes is this, we should see some pull requests in here that we're also not just going to bump a version because it fixes an alert, but are also going to bump it because there's just a new version out there. It may not have any security vulnerabilities against it, but there's a new version out there. So while that does its thing, and we'll come back and check on it in a little bit, I think there's somebody put something in the chat, so let's go see what's in the chat. Okay, so hey, Mickey, I have one enterprise account with 3 organizations. I have created one organization dedicated for GitHub reusable actions and workflows. Okay, good. That's a pattern that we see. If I create the reusable actions as internal, can I invoke them from the public repos in my main organization? That's an interesting question because let's go out here. Let's do this. Let's go back to DevOps Elvis and let's create a new repo. Oh, no, that's not what I do. Let's go back to repositories and let's go find my actions repo that I use. So that's an interesting question because when you do create like a reusable workflow in your organization or a composite action in your organization, there is a switch that you have to flip to tell it whether you're going to allow other repos in the organization or allow access to it or allow access to it to all your organizations. So let's go look at something. We may test this out just to see what happens. But let's go here first. And let me see if I've got something in here that'll help me. Here we go. So if we go look at the settings on this composite action, I don't know if it's going to work or not. So you know what that means? That means we have to test it. So let's test it. Let's build a repo. And we will call this my please work reusable workflow repo. Awesome. Now, according to him, his reusable workflow is internal. So we're going to make this repository internal. We'll add a README file because we can. All right, so let's create that repository. And just because I don't feel like remembering all the syntax, I'm going to come out here and steal a reusable workflow. So we'll come over here to .github. Come on, catch up. And there we go. We'll grab all of this just because we can. Then we'll make a couple of changes to it. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to go to Actions. And we're going to configure a new workflow. We're going to call it the please work reusable workflow.yaml. Again, we'll change the name to please work reusable workflow. We're going to do a workflow call. I'm not going to pass anything in. And then all that workflow is going to do is it's going to do a runs on Ubuntu latest. And it's just going to have a step where we're just going to say hello. And we're just going to do a run echo hello. So that's all our reusable workflow does. Super easy. So let's check that reusable workflow in. So that's our reusable workflow. Beautiful. Let's see if we go to the settings for our repository and we go to actions, we go to general. Then you'll notice because it is an internal repo, we have to set what the accessibility is on that internal repo. Oh, awesome. I have Zoom installed. So you have three options when you set that, which is you can say that this workflow is only accessible or this workflow is not accessible from any other repositories. You can specify that it's only accessible inside the organization, so other repos in this organization can access this. Or you can specify that it's accessible to all repositories in your enterprise, but this is the important part, and this is what answers your question. It's only available from private or internal repos. So your question in the chat specifically was, I have one enterprise account with 3 organizations. I created one organization dedicated to reusable actions and workflows. That organization, if I create my reusable actions repository as internal, can I invoke them from the public repos in my main organization? And the answer is no. Because they are internal, they can only be used by other internal or private repositories, but they cannot be used by your public repos. If you want them to be used by your public repos, then you would have to put them in a public repository as well. Great question, though. Let's go back to where we were talking about Dependabot for a second. And let's go back to that repository. And in this case, no, it did not create any new pull request for me. I was hoping it would create new pull requests for me, but it didn't. So that's okay. But that is the basics of working with Dependabot with a little side detour into doing reusable workflows. Again, if there are other questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to answer them. However, if there's not, that's fine too. But Dependabot, for the most part, is pretty easy to use. Now, if you'll remember, I said most of Dependabot is free, and that is a true statement. Whether you're using public repos, internal repos, or private repos, most of everything I've shown you so far is free. There is one aspect of Dependabot, though, that requires you have an advanced security license. And that aspect of Dependabot is if you're going to do something called dependency review. Now, Dependabot, when you normally run Dependabot, it runs against the main branch. All right. So when I turned it on and it ran against the main branch. But how do you let me see if I can find the right repository. Oh, we'll find it here in just a second. But you may also want to be able to try to catch this stuff in a feature branch. For example, you create a feature branch, you add a bad package on that feature branch, and then you you create a pull request from your feature branch to your main branch. You want to be able to capture that package. To capture that, you want to be able to know, oh, wait, this pull request has a vulnerability in it. Because Dependabot by default is not going to catch it on the feature branch. When you push it to main, then it will catch it and it will throw an alert. But what you want to be able to do is actually stop the pull request based off of entering a bad dependency. And you can do that. But there's an action out there called dependency review action. There's also, if you're not using actions, there's API calls for dependency review. And what the action basically does is it checks to see, did you introduce some bad dependencies in this pull request? Now, let me look for something. Let me look at something here. Repository rule sets. Now, doing the dependency check on a pull request is also a good reason to also use a required workflow on a repository rule set. So first off, let's go find, here we go, required workflows. Let's go look at this dependency action here. Oops. Oh, there it is. So what I have is a workflow that runs when a pull request is created. And what that workflow does is pretty simple for the most part. What that workflow does is it runs this action, right? It runs dependency review action, which is an action built by the actions team. You can specify what makes it fail. You can also specify if you're using any licenses that we don't want to allow in our company. Then it will also fail the PR there. And it will also write comments back to the PR on what the problem was and what it found. So to implement dependency review, you have to have an advanced security license on that repository, and you would use this action. And so when you then created a pull request with the bad dependency in it, it would actually do a check against the pull request, block the pull request, and tell you what the bad action is. Now, to do the check against the pull request, that's where I was using in repository rule sets something called a required workflow. Required workflows are nice because required workflows don't have to exist inside of every repository. They exist in a centralized repository, and then you call and then they get triggered by creation of a pull request. So in this case, I've got this required workflow. Wait, where'd my mouse go? Lost my mouse. There it is. So in this case, I've got this required workflow that's going to run whenever I create a pull request in these different repositories. GitHub Actions presentation. So if I create a pull request in these repositories that has a bad package, then it will block the PR. So let's go look at a couple of those and see if we can actually find what it looks like when it does the actual blocking. All right, so let's go look in here first. Told you I'm winging these live things. There we go. Back it up. So here you can see dependency review ran and it didn't find anything. So that's kind of boring. So let's look at something a little more interesting. I have too many repositories. I need to solve that problem. So here is a pull request I created where I made a change where I added in the tar 2.2.2 package on the feature branch. And because I had the dependency review work action in a workflow that runs whenever a pull request is created, it came back, it did a check. The check failed because, and again, if we look at the check, we can see that the reason that, well, the logs are gone, but it would tell you the check failed because it found the bad dependency. But it also then writes it back to the pull request so we can see, oh, you added a bad package. Here's the vulnerability that you added. Here's why we're blocking this so that you can stop that package from making it to your main branch. So there you go. That is my quick and dirty 25-minute overview of Dependabot with a little bit of a side quest into reusable workflows as well as how you can reference reusable workflows and actions from public and private repositories. Whew. All right, I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to see if there's any questions on the stream. Otherwise, this is probably going to be a good stopping spot for today. And I have to figure out the camera issue. That's going to bother me. I'll try to make sure that gets figured out before the next time I do this. And I'll try to be maybe a little more prepared the next time I do this as well. I was kind of winging the demos today, but I'll try to have it set a little more and maybe have a more stronger topic. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so we'll call this done for the day. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter. Feel free to send me emails with questions. I'll have some more lives or I'll record some videos and try to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for coming out to my stream.